How many days does a worker remain an egg before becoming a larvae?
What did you say?
How many days does a worker remain an egg before it lays down and becomes a larvae? 3. 3. All right. So right here, and then the egg is going to lay down and start the pupal stage.
And you can see on the left margin, W, D, Q.
I'm sorry, yeah, worker, drone, queen. Okay, how many days does a drone remain an egg before becoming a larvae?
Right.
Speak up if you're right. 3. I'll tell you if you're wrong. All right, same. And so how many days does a queen egg, is a queen an egg before it becomes a larvae? 3. So all 3 of these, all 3 casts, it's 3 days before the egg lays over and becomes a larvae. So how many days old is a 1-day larvae? 4. Great. Now that's important because as you're doing the math, you always want to consider those first 3 days. That's why you want to think about that. How many days old is a 2-day-old larvae? 5. All right? It's a counting exercise. What day is a queen cell capped?
8.
At day 8. Now that, I think, can vary. It may be 9, maybe 8. Not absolutely perfect, but yeah, about day 8, you're going to see that queen cell capped.
Or African bees, day 7.
What day is a worker cell capped?
9.
All right. And then what day is a drone cell capped?
10.
Okay. What 10? All right. What day does
And can you see that on that? I'll send you all that if you want me to.
Yeah.
Can you see that on that, what he's talking about?
I know.
Keep it handy because this is gonna be integral as you start making the queens.
And so, what day does a queen emerge?
16.
At day 16, right here.
With the caveat of if the hive is hotter, she'll merge on 15. If it's cooler, 17.
Okay. So, again, generally this is how it's going to work. There could be some slight variations. What day does a worker emerge?
20.
Langford told you that a few minutes ago. This is what Langford was talking about when you get a package of bees. If she's immediately able to lay, it's 21 days before those new workers are going to start emerging. So the bees that you buy in that package are dying off over this 21 days before you ever have a new bee emerge. And what day does a drone emerge?
24.
On day 24. Okay. Now, you find an uncapped queen cell that is occupied. How many days old is it?
Could be up to 8.
And what's the bottom of that range?
6.
4 to 6.
4 to 7.
4 to 7.
Yep. Yep.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, you guys understand?
That's the range, 4 to 7.
Yeah, 4 to 7.
If it's an egg, you're gonna see an egg. But
Okay.
that's
So here's the queen line. So the question was, you find an uncapped queen cell that is occupied. How many days old is it? So you're going to be from right here, uncapped, until right here. So it's 4 to 7 days old.
But how do I know, on day 4, how do I know that that's a queen cell? Isn't it still just gonna look like a normal comb that the egg is laid over it?
No.
It could look any variation of this.
You're usually gonna see a queen cup. You know, I don't know if you can remember back, we showed pictures of queen cup.
And so this is a little misleading. So here you're looking at a cell. Here you're looking at a queen cup. So this is going to be down in the frame. So you've got your frame, you're looking down in cells up here. down here, you're gonna be looking at a queen cell that's hanging off. It's gonna stand out either, if it's a swarm cell, it's gonna be probably across the bottom. If it's a supersedure cell, it's probably gonna be hanging off the front of the frame, but it's gonna stand out and hang down. So it'll look like a queen cup, or it'll really start looking like it's gonna be a queen cell. That's what I think Langford was talking about earlier, where he was talking about those cups on the bottom, that he'll look in there and see if there's anything in there, and if there's not, he may just go ahead and pinch it, so he'll know he's been there and doesn't have to worry about that anymore, because it was empty. Does that make sense?
I have a little better understanding.
Ask questions. No, that's what this is for.
I'm
Well-
still confused, I think, because I'm thinking that, you know, if I don't have a queen, and there's some little larvae, and on a certain day, the larvae, you know, the rest of the bees choose certain larvae to feed the royal jelly to turn it into a queen?
Right?
If you don't have a queen, that's exactly what they will do. Yeah, that's exactly what they'll do.
That will be in a regular cell.
Okay, so
You
that's
are
where my,
correct.
that's where my.
You are correct, yes.
Yeah, so they're gonna take one of these,
Mhm.
and they're gonna start creating one of these. And so they're gonna start feeding her royal jelly. And if they have time, and this can take some different forms. If it's a swarm cell, they're gonna take one of these, just laid over, a brand new one that is just laid over, and they're gonna start making a queen cell out of that. If you smash the queen, they may come over here and take one of these, because now they don't have a queen, they're desperate, they've got to do something fast. They will start feeding this one royal jelly, and the studies show that this one will not be as viable of a queen because she did not get that extra couple of days of nutrition. And so a supersedure cell does not or an emergency cell does not necessarily give you, it'll give you a queen, not necessarily as good a queen as it would have been back over here where she had that extra nutrition. Nutrition is very important in the development and viability of very good queens. And Ruth Ann, Ken, Langford, anything to add?
Well,
Feel free.
the difference between a worker and a queen is the absence of pollen. Once they start feeding the worker, the larva pollen, it's no longer viable to be a queen. Because queens are fed nothing but royal jelly. But yet, as a queen producer, you've got to have plenty of pollen in the hive for the worker bees to secrete the royal jelly. So when I put a graft in, I put a nice big pollen patty on top of it. And usually within 3 days it's gone, and I'm putting another one on it till those queen cells are capped. And then either you put them into mating nukes, put them in an incubator, or you just leave them there till you need them.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Looks like a peanut. Once it's capped, it looks like a peanut.
Yeah, feel free to ask questions. I mean, that's what we're doing this for, so feel free to ask questions. You find a capped queen cell in your hive. How old is it?
9.
What day are queen cells capped?
8
Yep.
to
Okay, so you don't know, okay? You just know that it's somewhere between here and here. Now, I think that as you get out toward here, don't the caps start getting a little more golden, a little more dark?
And then you'll see where the bees are chewing a little bit on the bottom, and you'll also see, it looks like where it's being ringed from the inside.
Yeah, so
Because it's like a trap door, it'll just kind of fall
she'll kick
down.
out that trap door and she drops down when she comes out. So as you see these over time, you'll start recognizing that they look a little different at this stage. The cap looks a little different at this stage than it does back at this new stage back here. It'll be kind of, I don't know about bright, but more yellowish. Out here it'll be more goldish.
So is
Just
it,
like a dirty carpet.
Dark,
A
yeah,
lot of feet been on it,
yeah,
playing with it.
treading.
is the difference you can tell maybe like just new or old cap, or can you even tell like better in there how?
When you've been doing it for a while, you can look at it and go, yeah, that one's gonna hatch in the next 3 hours.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And the reason you need to know when that queen's gonna emerge, because you have to be able to figure out down the road, when are you gonna check for a laying queen? You can't just sit there and say, well, I'll just wait and see what happens. If your queen goes out to mate and never makes it back, and you don't ever check, and you don't know, you're gonna have a laying worker, and then you have a royal mess
So,
to tend to.
my story last year, Langford talked about, I did a walk-away split. I had 2 horizontal hives, one of them made it through the winter, the other one didn't, so early April, this one was just kicking tail, so I went in there, couldn't find anything to save my soul. So I just did, okay, even out the resources, and I am sure she's in this one. Well, lo and behold, I come home, go back in there in about a week or so, and I look, and I've got happy bees over here, and I'm starting to get queen cells over here. So she wasn't in here, she was over there. And I had about 6 or 7 queen cells over here. And I said, okay, then I'm somewhere in here. And so I get my calendar out, and I said 28 days, and I counted backwards, and then I counted back forward, get my 28 days, and I said, okay, I gotta go back in here, and I should have a laying queen. I went back in there was 1 queen cell left that there was a dead bee in that never emerged. Wasn't another queen cell in there, wasn't a single egg in there, wasn't a larvae, there was nothing in there. My queen never came back. Most of the cells emerged, but she didn't make it back from her mating flight. That's Ruth Ann's point. If you don't do this, and then go back in here and look at this, 20% of the queens don't return? Is that kind of your number?
Early spring, I maybe got 20% back.
So, queens, anything, bird gets them. Anything can happen, they're bugs, A lot of things can happen to a bug out in nature.
Dragonflies. Kill all the dragonflies.
So that's why this is so important, so that if you see that you've lost your queen or you're trying to raise a queen, when you see these things happening, you got to be able to play that out and then go back and look in there and see, is it going according to plan? If it's not, then, well, what I did, I went and bought a queen and stuck her in there as fast as I could, because now I'm getting into spring, I gotta get going. Does that make sense? Okay. You find a capped queen cell in your hive, but you also find a few uncapped brood. What's the approximate age of the queen cell?
8 to 9. It's got to be like 9 days old.
8 to 10, kind of in that window. Yeah.
Do you all understand that?
No.
Your queen cell is capped.
So you're here.
Yeah, your queen cell is capped. But these guys here are not capped.
Because keep in mind,
See?
these capped here, these are still open.
See, this is open, this is open. Does that make sense? That just helps you get a better approximation of your day.
And what are these going to look like? Pretty mature larvae. Pretty mature larvae. They're going to be big. You're going to have big, white, fat larvae, and they're not little tiny eggs that just laid over. I mean, they're pretty developed. They're getting ready to cap those too, but it's going to be a couple of days. You find a capped queen cell in your hive. There's no uncapped brood anywhere. How old is the queen cell in a range? So when did we cap all these? So that's the bottom of the range, 9 days. When is she going to emerge? So somewhere between 10 and 16 days. And again, this is what you're doing to get to this 28-day number out here. That's what you're trying to figure out. Okay, colony is making a new queen. How many days will it take for her to be mated and laying?
I don't know if we ever even covered that with this class.
Well, there are people who are going to wish they'd been here tonight.
28.
It is 28. So she's going to emerge here at 16. It's going to take about 4 days for her body to harden, her wings to firm up, for her to be able to fly. It's going to take about 4 days for her to go out and mate, okay?
Orient, yeah.
Orient and go out. And then when she comes back from that mating flight, if she's successful, about another 4 days for her to start laying.
So about 28 days.
28 days. Mike, you have anything
I
to
say
add?
28 to 30.
Yeah. And that is 28 to 30. It could be a couple days further out. It could be more, maybe 5 days out. But it will be right around that 28 days. It won't be immediately after the 16. And that's the main thing, is know that you've got time after she emerges. You've still got time that you've got to wait. And you don't want to go back in there until you're pretty sure that she's back, because if you open up that hive and she's coming back, you may accidentally kill her. She may not come back because you're in the hive. You kind of want to give her time to get back and settle in before you start disturbing the hive.
One thing about bees is something goes wrong in the hive, they blame the queen. That's why
Of course.
it's true.
It's true.
Because like when I'm grafting, I know exactly what day they're gonna hatch on. And if they're gonna hatch today, I'll go in tomorrow. All I do is open the lid, take out the graft, okay, she hatched, put it together, come back 10 days later. I expect to see eggs. Sometimes I do, but the majority of the time I do, sometimes you don't. Just because you see eggs doesn't mean that you've got a mated queen.
Right.
I've got a video that's gonna be coming out eventually. Is she mated or not? Because I pulled out the first frame, honey, pulled out the second frame, beautiful brood pattern, both sides, every cell full. Looked down in the hive and all I saw was bullets, which are drone eggs laid in worker comb.
Mhm.
And she had deformed wing virus.
So she never left.
Yeah, she never left the hive, but I mean, beautiful brood pattern. And if I needed drones, I'd
Sterile
kept
eggs,
her.
yeah.
I'd kept her if I needed drones at the time, but it was in the middle of the summer, so I didn't need them.
And to that, I'm sorry, I was going to say, to that point, Adrian, that's what I was saying earlier. 80% of your hive issues may be resolved by requeening. A lot of things in the hive that are happening in the hive are a result of the queen that you have. Maybe genetics, maybe deformed wings, any number of things. But one of the first things you can do is try to requeen and see if it will rectify the problem.
So if you go in, you think you know what day you're supposed to check for egg laying for your queen. So you open up that hive and you don't see eggs, what are you gonna do? Well, maybe your calculation's off, give her 3 more days. Go back, and if you don't see eggs then, you need to start doing something about it. You know, chances are,
Call it like.
yeah, chances are. And so you find her, she is laying eggs, and like Langford said, you're not done yet. You find eggs, then when should you check that hive again? How many days? Look at your capping.
Are you going to have a worker cap or are you going to have a drone cap?
Right. So you need to go back for 9 or 10 days and make sure you got worker brood in there. And everybody knows the difference.
You know what a drone cap looks like versus a worker cap. So you go back in there in 3 days, and I've seen it, and all of your caps are raised caps.
Bullet tips.
Then you've got a bunch of drones. You've got a queen that's not fertilized. Okay, it's July 4th. During your hive inspection, you mortally injured the queen. You know that it happened. Without a doubt, she was killed. You will allow the colony to rear a new queen. Risky, but can do it.
July 4th, especially.
On what day of the month do you expect, oh, you could get a really good queen that is very young going into the fall and come out next year kicking tail. So, on what day of the month do you expect to check for the new laying queen?
And you have some
Okay.
calendars.
So you're on
you can
July
figure that out. This is big test question.
August 1st.
Everybody figure it out.
Have to recognize.
And whatever that day, she's gonna hatch.
So it's July 4th.
Total of 28 days. Total of 28 days.
August 3rd.
Well, just count forward. Okay, so, does everybody have an answer?
No.
Okay, Robert, what's your answer?
I'm gonna pick July 31st.
Okay.
We think August
Ten.
1st.
Okay, keep going.
All right.
August 1st.
Okay. Nobody?
First.
I'm gonna wait till August 3rd, this is Saturday.
I don't want to get you up early.
Change mine to the 3rd.
Linda?
First.
Okay.
28.
Okay. Anyone else? Adrian?
August 1st.
The 28th. Okay? July 4th. And then you've got to, what are you going to do? Where are they going to get that queen from? They're going to start right here, but that egg is back here. So you're going to go back 3 days, and then you go forward 28. Yeah.
Do they, like, if she just left, wouldn't it take them a little while to realize they weren't queen right?
About an hour.
Hours. I mean, it'll
Hours,
be,
okay.
Minutes.
yeah, when that pheromone stops, you can take a box in your hive and you can go set it off over here. And within a few minutes, one of those boxes will start getting agitated and noisy because there's no queen in there. It's that fast.
Okay.
Yeah. Within 45 minutes or so, the absence of queen mandibular pheromone is going to pass through the entire hive within about 45 minutes tops. It happens that quickly. They're constantly passing that pheromone from the retino bees are constantly passing that pheromone throughout the hive. So they'll know it within about 45 minutes. And immediately get on replacing her. Now, again, what they may do though is actually take one of these older ones and with an emergency cell, because any days they can shave off, they will do that, and they may select an older larvae to create that cell with, and you'll have an emergency queen. She probably won't be as good as viable. She may be, but she's not going to get the nutrition that a super seizure or a swarm queen would have got.
So in that case, let's say we do that right now, or that's happening now. We let that queen run the hive through the winter, and then in the spring we try to find her and replace her?
It would depend, yeah. If it happened right now, the odds of her getting fertilized are going to be kind of slim, but the odds of you finding another queen are going to be kind of slim too. I mean, Langford, I would say try to let them do it, and
Well, they'll replace her more than I can.
well, if she's that inviolable or whatever the word would be, they'll probably supersede her in spring. If you could find a mated queen, somebody's got a hive that's crashing or something like that. Case in point, I had it sort of happen to me. I didn't kill the queen, but I lost her in like September one time. And Nancy Williams was going to combine 2 hives. And I mean, I was panicking. And I happened to talk to Nancy 2 days before and knew she was going to do it. And I called Nancy and said, have you combined those hives yet? And she said, no, I'm going to do it tomorrow. David Reed's coming over to help me. And I met him at the house when David did it, and she gave me the queen out of the hive that she was combining. Wasn't the greatest queen, but those bees made it through the winter. So she wasn't the greatest queen, but it was enough to get them through the winter, and then I requeened it in spring. So those are options that you can consider. Because a lot of people are combining hives right now. You may be able to find a queen that's not the greatest, but at least can get you through because somebody's combining hives.
So the earliest they, if this happened, the earliest is day 4 is where they would go to start making it.
To start, the earliest, yeah, they're going to go. That's the earliest they would start, but I think they will probably go later because they need a queen as fast as possible and they know it. So they're probably going to do an emergency and use an older larvae.
Well, supersedure and swarms are intended.
Yeah.
They're preparing like you're getting ready to go to Israel or wherever you're going. You're packing your bags, they're making the cell, they're going to force the queen to lay where they want her to lay. Emergency is, oh crap, somebody just goes in a car wreck and I got to go to the emergency room. You just grab what you got and go.
And so they're going to go for a good larvae and start feeding it royal jelly and do the best they can.
Let's take this opportunity too, because y'all are gonna need this when Stuart does his class December 7th. Does everybody know about that class? Everybody. He's gonna talk about a lot about making your own queens, and he's gonna talk about notching. So let's take this opportunity to help you understand that. You know, he'll talk about if you do a split and you notch some cells, and he'll show you about that, so don't worry about that, but he'll talk about how to choose what cells to keep. So if you have done a split and you're letting this little hive make a queen, you're going to go back in there and check it about 4 days from then, okay? To find out which queen cells you want to keep, okay? So if you go back in 4 days, okay, so say you're, you might have to help me.
Okay.
So you're here, and this is where you do your split. And you're going back in 4 days to check, okay? Am I saying that right?
I'm not sure. Can I say something?
Yeah, go.
So in this scenario, and back to your question, in this scenario, you know you've killed your queen. And I should have caught this because you're absolutely right. What you would want to do is what notching does is it directs the bees toward where you want them to build a queen cell.
Here, here.
Okay? So instead of saying, oh my God, my queen's dead, and walking away and letting them create a queen, what notching does is you go and you notch under these cells right here, and the bees will go in and they'll start queen cells here. So you instead of letting them decide where they want to build that queen cell, you kind of direct them to where you want them to build, and you send them to where one of these cells that the egg has just laid over into a larvae. Then they'll get that nutrition. Then you'll have a better queen, more viable queen. So what Stuart's going to teach in notching is you don't let that happen. You choose where they go to select those eggs and make those queens. That's what you're
But
doing.
if you go back in 4 days and you already find capped queen cells, you know a queen cell is capped at day 8, okay? Then they must have used this or this because you've got one. You want them to use this and preferably these. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you already have a capped cell, that's my point.
So ideally, you'll direct them to the 3.5-day-old
Right.
larvae.
And you know, when you make a queen, a lot of times you'll go back and there might be 10 or 12 queen cells in there.
Yeah.
You don't want to let all those things emerge because a lot of times you'll have secondary swarms. Every time a queen of any kind leaves that hive, she's taking some bees with her. You can decimate the hive, letting everything hatch out. So you want to keep just a few nice cells.
And I'll be honest with you, if I'm lousy at notching, you need to go back in and make sure your notching worked. And when you go in and make sure and check your notching, you may have a queen cell on each of your notches, but you may have 6 or 7 more queen cells. They're not just going to do just what you want them to do. They're going to hedge their bets, and you may have 4 or 5 emergency cells and your 3 or 4 or 5 notched queen cells. And you would destroy those emergency cells because you don't want those, and you would select probably about the best 3 of your notched cells that are going to give you the best queen.
And that notching reshapes that cell so it will develop in a downward elongated form. So she can develop like a queen, not bent over from a regular cell.
Like you would in emergency.
So if you went in
You
this
have
case,
3 and you get 3 queens, will one kill the other 2?
They might, but a lot of queens don't stay to fight. A lot of them will.
But they leave and they take
They'll
your,
leave and they'll
your-
take some with them. But now some, you know, on the day that you're gonna hatch out your queen, watch your bottom board, because sometimes you'll see dead queens laying out on, or dead larvae laying out on the entrance boards. It's pretty good.
Usually they don't fight for the first day,
If 2 queens emerge.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Because I've had frames with 8 or 10 cells on it. I'd go down there every 2 hours catching virgins, put them in queen cages, go back 2 hours later, catch 2 or 3
Go
more.
put them in a mating nook,
Put
and
them in a nook, make a split, go down the road, because
every queen's,
they were intended.
yeah.
And those virgin queens, they run like hell.
Of course, now Ruth
First 2
Ann
hours,
had a story where she was raising queens, and what was it? You were going through checking your queen cells,
I was videoing,
and one of them had come out, and she was going along stinging
killing
the queens.
killed through the thing.
as fast as Ruth Ann.
And when I really started paying attention, I thought I was, but clearly not. Yeah, I was losing queens.
Martin, what are you gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna say, when you're looking for, you're gonna make a notch,
as you see your cells, they'll be like egg, 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 and then you'll see them advance and age as you go across.
Yeah, because remember, the queen's laying in that pattern. So your notching is going to be on the outside because that's probably where your youngest larvae are. Is that what you're?
Yeah, you can hide to it and just lay those bottom part of those cells down.
Yeah. I can talk about it, but I sure haven't done it very well. All right, last question. TBA monthly meetings occur on a certain day of the week and a certain week of the month. When is this?
Monday.
Fourth Monday. Some months have 5 Mondays, so it's the fourth Monday, not the last Monday. That's what people confuse. All right. What's that, Chip?
Define that one.
Any questions?
I just want to confirm what I think I heard. So if the hive is making their own queen, we want to go in and check and crush more than 3, just leave 3 queens there.
Yeah, if you go in there and they're 8 or whatever, some of them will look like a full peanut, just perfect, hanging down there, nice, I don't know, undulations or whatever.
Texture on the surface.
Yeah, texture to the cell. I mean, it just looks very, very pretty. And some of them just kind of look deformed. Knock those deformed ones down and let those pretty ones go, because those are where your best queens are. Any other questions?
You say you're gonna email this out, really?
I can.
Okay.
Yep. Actually, yeah, I'll get with Doug. This was in earlier presentations that we did, and I'll get those out on the website.
I may have it buried somewhere.
Chase, well, it never got on the website, I don't believe. It was probably my fault, but I'll work on that and get them out there for you. Plus, there's so much other great information in my presentation. All right. Thank you, guys.